Rub your palms together. Fast. Faster than that. Feel it? That warmth spreading into your skin? The faint heat you just made out of nothing but your own two hands. Hold on to that feeling. Because for almost the entire span of human existence, that little bit of friction was the closest anyone could get to making fire. And they wanted it more than they wanted almost anything else on Earth. So here's the question this whole video is going to answer. How did humans discover fire? Not find it. Anyone can find a burning tree. The real question is harder. How did a shivering, soft-skinned animal go from stumbling onto flames it didn't understand to carrying fire, keeping fire, and finally pulling fire out of thin air whenever it wanted? The answer is stranger than someone rubbed two sticks together. And by the end, you're going to see the thing almost nobody realizes. Fire didn't just keep us warm. Fire is the reason you can think at all. Picture yourself without it. You are an early human. The sun is going down, the temperature is falling toward freezing, and you have no coat, no walls, no match, no way to change any of that. Out past the edge of what you can see, something is moving. The animal that also thinks this cave is a good idea comes home at dusk, and it weighs more than you do, and its eyes work in the dark far better than yours ever will. Fire fixes all of that in a single stroke. Light to push the darkness back, warmth to keep your body from shutting down overnight, a wall of heat and smoke that even the biggest predators won't walk through. Miss out on fire, and you don't just get a worse night. Over enough generations, you don't get a future. So you would expect fire to be the crown jewel, the one thing every early human raced to master first. But here is the twist nobody sees coming. The single most important thing fire ever did for our species had nothing to do with staying warm and nothing to do with staying safe. We'll get there. First, you have to understand something that changes the whole story. Fire was never one invention, it was three. Lightning hits the dry grass, a tree goes up in a roar of orange, and every animal in range does the sensible thing and runs. And they should. Fire is death. But somewhere, at least 1,000,000 years ago, one kind of animal ran the other way. We have the burnt receipts. Deep inside Wonderwerk Cave in South Africa, a team led by Gesher Benot found charred scraps of bone and softened ash-like plant remains roughly 1,000,000 years old. That alone isn't the surprising part. The surprising part is where. This material was burned deep inside the cave, not swept in from some wildfire outside. In 2012, they published it. Ash that old, that far underground, is the earliest solid evidence we have of humans getting close to fire on purpose. Sit with what that actually took. Every nerve in your body is wired to flee open flame. These early humans overrode it. They walked up to the single most terrifying thing in the landscape, reached into it, and pulled out a burning branch to keep. But they couldn't create fire. They could only borrow it. And borrowed fire has one fatal flaw. It goes out. The next breakthrough wasn't a spark at all. It was a job. Think about how brutal this problem is. A found fire is a clock ticking down. Feed it wrong and it dies. Let the rain reach it and it dies. Fall asleep and it dies. And when it dies, you are right back where you started, freezing in the dark, waiting on the next lightning strike, which might not come for a year. So the second leap was learning to never let that happen. Feed it, shelter it, ration the wood, carry the glowing embers from camp to camp, and guard the flame like your life depends on it, because it did. At a site called Gesher Benot Ya'aqov in Israel, archaeologists found the fingerprint of exactly that discipline around 790,000 years ago. Burnt flint and scorched wood clustered in the same spots over and over. Not one lucky blaze that happened to leave a mark, a pattern. The same hearth returned to again and again, as if someone was tending it on purpose across generations. That isn't using fire anymore, that's controlling it. If you want to see the exact moment fire stops being a tool and becomes a home, the find that genuinely stunned the researchers who dug it up, subscribe, because that's the next thing I'm about to show you, and it's my favorite part of this entire story. Move forward to Qesem Cave, also in Israel, around 300,000 years ago. Here, researchers found a hearth that had been used so many times the ground beneath it had baked into layers, stacked like the rings of an ancient stovetop. And clustered around that one central fire were the stone tools and the cut-marked animal bones, the debris of a group that gathered at the same warm point in the dark, night after night after night. Let that image land. For the first time, there's a center, a fixed place the whole group comes back to every single evening. The fire has stopped chasing the humans around the landscape. Now the humans are arranging their entire lives around the fire, where they sleep, where they eat, where they butcher, where they sit together, and, presumably, where they talk. And yet, 300,000 years into this story, they still couldn't make it. If that hearth ever went fully cold, they were in real danger. Which brings us, at last, to the payoff, the reason all of this mattered far more than warmth ever could. Here is the part almost nobody expects. The most important thing fire ever did to us didn't happen in the cave. It happened inside our own bodies. And it started the moment we began putting food into the flames. Raw meat and raw roots are tough, fibrous, and stubborn. Your gut has to grind away at them for hours to pry the energy loose, which is exactly why animals that eat their food raw spend most of their waking lives chewing. But cooking does the hardest part of digestion for you, on the outside, before the food ever reaches your mouth. Heat breaks down the fibers and unravels the proteins. Suddenly, the same bite hands you far more usable energy for far less internal effort. The primatologist Richard Wrangham built an entire theory around this, the cooking hypothesis. His argument runs like this. Once we cooked, we no longer needed an enormous energy-hungry gut to wrestle calories out of raw material. That gut could shrink, and all the energy it used to burn had to go somewhere new. It went to the brain. Your brain is an extraordinarily expensive organ. It's roughly 2% of your body weight, and it devours something like 20% of your energy every second, awake or asleep. An animal living on raw food can barely afford an organ that greedy. But an animal that cooks? An animal pulling huge calories cheaply out of a fire it controls every single night. That animal can afford to grow a bigger brain, and a bigger one, generation after generation. The kind of brain that eventually invents everything else. This is the leap many researchers tie to Homo erectus, the ancestor whose body already looks unmistakably built around fire. So look again at what fire actually did. It didn't just protect the human, it rebuilt the human. Smaller gut, bigger brain, more thinking, all of it powered by the flames at the center of the cave. Fire equals heat and safety was never the real answer. Fire is the fuel that grew the mind watching this video right now. And there is one final leap, the hardest of them all. Through everything so far, Wonderwerk, Gesher Benot Ya'aqov, Qesem, humans were still, in the deepest sense, prisoners of luck. They could use fire, they could keep fire, but if it died, they were back to waiting for the sky to hand them a new one. The final breakthrough was making fire on demand. Friction, spinning wood against wood until the heat you can feel in your own palms right now climbs high enough to birth a single glowing ember. Or the strike-a-light, cracking the right stone to fling a spark into a nest of dry tinder. This came far later than you'd ever guess, and it was the single hardest trick our ancestors ever pulled off, because it meant, for the first time, humans never had to wait on lightning again. That is the moment fire stopped being something that happened to us and became something we owned. Not in one flash, in three. First, they used it, walked toward the burning tree while every instinct screamed run, and carried the flame home. That's Wonderwerk Cave, 1,000,000 years back. Then they controlled it, learned to feed it and shelter it and keep it alive, the same hearths burning over and over at Gesher Benot Ya'aqov 790,000 years ago, then Qesem Cave, where the fire became the glowing center of the entire group. Then, finally, they made it. Friction and spark, the hardest leap of all, the day we stopped waiting on the sky. And somewhere along the way, at the mouth of one of those fires, we started to cook. That's the quiet revolution hiding underneath the whole story. Cooked food fed a shrinking gut and a swelling brain until the animal that once fled the flames became the animal that could imagine and plan and ask the exact question you just watched me answer. Now rub your palms together one more time. Feel that little bit of warmth catch in your skin? That's the whole of human history in miniature. A spark made by hand out of almost nothing at all. And it's still in you, right now.